Welcome back, everybody, to the season of encounters. That's right. We're off to Canada again, once again this week. British Columbia on early reports from that location. Hotbed of Sasquatch activity that goes way, way back. We're going to talk about that tonight, right here. Lounge Podcast. Hello, everybody. I am indeed the Reverend Jeff Kelly. I'm here. You're there. Makes this whole thing absolutely incredible. And we're going to talk Bigfoot tonight. We've got some Bigfoot news that we got to get through here first. A little bit of a Bigfoot rant from the old Rev. And we'll see where we end up by the end of the night. Alrighty, folks. Let's see if YouTube is going to cooperate with us tonight. Absolutely they are. Sweet. Swing, and it's a hit. Fireball deep to center field. It's out of here. All right. Beware the corn mask creature of Big Sur. That's right here in California. That's right. As any ghost hunter knows, most hauntings are subtle. At the Fernwood Campground in Big Sur, that is not the case. Most spirits don't just walk around in plain sight scaring the crap out of people. It might be because of the difficulty of influencing the moral plane, or they just might be shy. In Big Sur, though, there's a ghost who has been seen by many, and he's been seen. I'm wondering if this is Collier. You know, there is that legend of the Iowa boy, but he was out here in San Francisco, and, you know, that's not all that far from Big Sur. Yeah, check this one out. It was at backpassverse.com. You can just search for Big Sur, and it pops up. Neat little article. Frog in my throat still. Aid.com drops 43 wild facts about human evolution. That's right. Weir's different looks. 60,000 years ago, humans moved away from Africa and the equator and developed variations in skin tone. Lighter skin tones absorb more vitamin D. There's a big long list of stuff. Big bones, back pain, cooked meat. God, if you can hear that screeching in the background, there's literally an asshole that lives in this neighborhood who does donuts in the intersection right down the street from my house. And he'll do this on end now for hours. The police never come. No one ever does anything about it. And he's never killed anybody or himself. But Jesus H. Christ, can you knock it off already? Anyhow, back to the topic at hand. No brain drain. Social networking, cool tools. We learned to choke because of our voice box. There's one down here, though, that says something about people living alongside other upright walking species. And we'll get back to that in just a moment. Okay. Science Daily tells us that bonobos will help strangers without being asked. Huh? That's right. Apparently, apes from Africa's Congo Basin, the bonobos, will go out of their way to help strangers too. A previous study by Tan and Associate Professor of the Evolutionary Anthropology, Brian Hare, found that bonobos share food with strangers. Now, in a new series of experiments, the team is trying to find out just how far this kindness really goes. That's kind of strange. You know, most animals are all about self-preservation first, but if there's not enough to go around, they tend to share them with others. Check that one out. Science Daily. That's right. All right, BBC News. Now, this was a huge after years of study and argument and this and that and everything else, there's a new great ape species identified in Indonesia, and it is directly related to orangutan. That's right. The apes in question were only reported to exist after an expedition into the remote mountain forest there in 1997. Research project has unpicked their biology secrets. This named the tap Tapanuli orangutan. Tapanuli. Yes, the Tapanuli orangutan. A third species in addition to the Borean and Sumatran. That's right. Look at that handsome devil. Things that happens is, well, we're still looking for the Yeren in places. The orang pendek is what they're looking for in this part of the world. It could very much as easily be just of proto orangutan that got cut off by a volcano and they just evolved side by side into very like type of creatures. And it's just another way to show a paranthropus besides human ape discovery in 2017. That's huge, 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 huge. So check that one out. It's all over the place. Lots of places you can find that. All right. As I was just talking about side by side with homos. That's right. This is actually a couple of year old article, but it talks about the paranthropus species and it lays it out. And that's kind of been my model for what Bigfoot all along. It's all everybody's wanted to make it a proto-human or a pre-human or a Neanderthal or an Erectus or something of that line. When you go back along the fossil records, as long as Homo has been turning into Homo sapiens, there have been other of these paranthropus species, beside species, these upright, large-framed, big-head, big-jawed, front-facing, upright walking, hairy apes, which finally I start seeing some movement from the Gigantopithecus camps towards a modern look at the paranthropus types of species that would far likely be closer to a chimpanzee than Gigantopithecus blackie is to an orangutan, because we've never found anything that indicates that Bigfoot might be an orangutan. So why it would be a Gigantopithecus blackie has always been my argument all these years. All these years that I've been wrapped up in Bigfooting, I've always been a skeptic of the idea of Gigantopithecus blackie being Bigfoot just simply because it existed once. It was an orangutan. It was always an orangutan. And Bigfoot's never been reported to even appear like an orangutan. Speaking of orangutans and appearing on stuff, here we go into our deep, depressive slide into rantness tonight. The entertainer, survivorman Les Stroud, he's got a message. The search for Sasquatch has not ended. Theories come and go. Even branding has taken over in the world of Bigfoot. Yet the reality of the phenomenon persists. There's something out there. And Les Stroud, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time saying this with a straight face, remains intrigued to solve the mystery. Upon this hugely successful and critically acclaimed series, Survivorman Bigfoot, Stroud digs deeper, explores farther, and opens himself into more intense experiences on his new mission. Les Stroud is searching for Sasquatch. Only on my Stream It Now network for $9.99 per month. Look, man, by the time we get done streaming all these damn networks into your household, you might as well just keep cable. Les Stroud wants $9.99. Disney's going to want $9.99. Netflix wants $9.99. Amazon wants $9.99. Hulu wants $4.99. But if you want really good stuff, they want $7.99. But if you want the best stuff, they want $11.99. I mean, come on, people. Seriously. Okay. Les is an entertainer. He's trying to branch out into the digital world. I understand it. So, next up on the depressive slide into rant madness, Sasquatch expert Jeff Meldrum on today's Access Utah. That's right. Jeff Meldrum, professor of anthropology and anatomy at Idaho State University. He's the author of Sasquatch, Legend Meets Science. He's a leading expert on Bigfoot or Sasquatch, or the term he prefers, relic hominid. He says it's one matter to address the theoretical possibility of a relic species of hominoid in North America and the obligate shift in paradigm to accommodate it. Yeah, big friggin' words there, pal. 54 minutes long. I ain't bothered. anybody who's watching this show with any regularity understands that I feel the man's a sellout. He's a hypocrite. Here, right here. What are your credentials, Dr. Meldrum? Oh, I'm a Sasquatch expert. I'm definitely this. So he wants all these credentials. But this is exactly what he gives us.
Especially that video of the devil, as you refer to him, the dark-faced individual. I can't look at that image and not feel that I'm looking into the eyes of a living creature.
Fair use being what it is, I'm allowed to use anything I need to for commentary, and that's exactly where I'm going with this. You just heard what he talked about with the devil footage. If you haven't seen this discovering Bigfoot fallacy that's out there, we'll talk about that in just a moment too. That clip that you actually just heard is so edited in post that it made me almost tear up when I took it out of context and used it for this purpose too. Why not? Todd Standing did. The statement you just heard was actually two statements that were combined to make it appear as though he's talking about the devil face. The beginning of the statement, he is talking about the devil face, but at the end of the statement, I don't know what he's talking about because there's a hard edit in there, and it could be anything. He could be looking into the eyes of, Klaus the friggin' goldfish on American Dad, for all I know. So this is your Bigfoot expert. This is your guy who won't come out and say that he stands behind Todd Standing's work, but wants to scoff against people who will call it outright fakery. But he hasn't formed an opinion on it. But he's the world's foremost Bigfoot expert. I'm confused on why people kneel at the altar of the Meldrum. Well, it's money. They want to make sure that they can still be included in TV specials where I could really give a flying crap. Hey, TV producers, you really want to know what goes on with these people behind the scenes? Why don't y'all come out here to Sacramento, take me out to dinner, and we'll have a talk. Okay, seriously. But I digress. We'll move along here from the further slide and madness that is what came my way this week. I'm sorry I was out last week, guys. It was the flu. It was absolutely horrible. I wish that upon only my enemies. That's right. I wished it upon you because I just had it and can't get it again. Nah. Speaking of hoaxers, Sasquatch tracker suing province to prove creature is out there. That's right. Our boy Todd Standing, or Todd Rockwell, if you want to look up his production company. Oh, yeah, that's right. He has a movie company. Weird. Yeah, he's literally filing suit in the BC Supreme Court. Trying to basically to send biologists out into known Sasquatch territory with him so that he can prove the existence of Sasquatch. Your discovering Bigfoot documentary wasn't it? Evidence so compelling it can stand up in court. So you shouldn't need the biologist to go out in the field with you. You should just present them your discovering Sasquatch video, and the case should be closed. They'll just announce a Sasquatch hunting season, and we'll all be happy. Years I've been trying to figure out where this is all going. Obviously, Todd Standing has a money backer somewhere. This money doesn't just or come out of the mud, especially for this guy. If you Google his name, you'll see what I'm talking about. So where does this money keep coming from? Well, apparently the end game is finally announced. That's right. This is his own webpage, Discovering Bigfoot, Sylvanic.com, 2018 expeditions. That's right. Just for the low cost of $4,800 US. 3 participants per expedition. No more than 12 expeditions for the year. You too can have an exclusive opportunity that you won't want to miss, because even Dr. Bindernagel and Dr. Meldrum has enjoyed the services of Todd Standing. That's right. Because your Bigfoot gods have done it, you too should blow $4,800 up this guy's asshole. Shitting me? I mean, look. This isn't the only clown out here doing this. We have talked about it on this show time and time again about how these high dollar Bigfoot expeditions are nothing more than a scam. They're nothing more than a sham. They're there to separate fools from their money. Go ahead, look into this and go be part of this. But the end game is finally here. Why would Todd Standen just insist that he keep working with Jeff Meldrum and pay him enough to not shit all over his evidence, being the world's foremost Sasquatch expert? Is beyond me. But now you know, for $180,000 season for, being out a few weekends. I foresee some diapers, a turban in my future. My closest friends will know exactly what that means, but I digress. That is the news and the Rev's epic rant for the week. I'm not harping on it, people. It's news. It's what's going on, and I'm trying to keep the public informed of what's really going on out there. You guys, I expect you know it. However, every week I get another 1,000 views of people who have never seen the show before, really don't know much about Bigfoot, and thankfully they found the most realistic look into the topic of it, and maybe, just maybe, they'll survive. Boy, I got a grinchy eyebrow going on here today. I just can't get rid of that. Weird. Anyhow, that's right. We're getting towards Thanksgiving. We're getting towards the end of the year, and I'm going to be doing super fan shows from Thanksgiving on, and I got the first one lined up. That's right, Buck Nye, the Bigfoot guy. Bang! I'm going to have him on the Wednesday after Thanksgiving. Hey, you too can be part of the show if you'd like to be in some sort of other. Message me on Facebook, send me a message on YouTube. I'm out there on Google Plus, I guess. I'm in the Twitterverse. Send me a message however you'd like. Email me, sloungepodcast@gmail.com. Even if you just want to be on for a few minutes to say happy holidays to everybody out there. I don't know. We can work something out. So get in contact with me, and we'll see if we can't set up some super fan shows and make you guys part of the show as well. Hey, this is the time that I'm going to say hi to everybody out there in the podcast. So if you haven't said hi yet, make sure you check in and say hi in the chat room. Otherwise, I don't know you're here, and we're going to see who's hanging out in the chat room tonight. I see we're starting out with Miss Starshine. She's back swinging her tool. That's right. Glad to see you. I'm glad you're here. This is Mr. Keith Harden and our host of the Vital Power with me. We had that this afternoon, Mr. Kurt Harris. That's right. Mr. Rod Dupree. He's always in the place to be. Always number one to show up for shows. He's there like clockwork. We love that guy, and he loves us. It's awesome. John Bryers is in the house as well. He's been hanging out. Cheryl Willen, she's back again. How you doing? So glad you are with us as well. Let's see. Let's scroll up here a bit and find out. Ken! Oh, did I get that on you? Hey, buddy. Glad you're here with us as well. And Natalie Smith, she's in the house. Lance Windsor finally made his way back. We lost you during Vital Power. Glad you're here. Michael Bird, he's in the house. That's right. Jonathan Doty, hey man, so glad you are hanging out as well as I am. Robe Rubbles, how you doing? Rubble. That's right, hamburger. Man, I am so hungry. Ain't even funny. I could talk about forever. Anyhow, let's see who. There's bunches of people. Gurga. Glad you're there. I think you're new. That's cool. Jeremy Harrison is checking in as well. I know there's more than this. Now all of a sudden I'm losing my voice because I did 2 podcasts in a row today. Chris Merch, how you doing? Glad you're hanging out with us as well. Natalie Smith is checking in from Tennessee. I used to live in Tennessee. I used to live in Manchester, Tennessee, as a matter of fact. And Tennessee ain't a bad little place. There's them Sam Squanches out there. Hey, don't forget to go out and check out Huck Outdoors. He finally made the summit at Mount Whitney. Congratulations, dude. I'm sorry you missed it when you were sick, but I was so proud to see that you were up there sporting it this time, man. Happy trip for you, man. Really good stuff on the Huck Outdoors channel. Oh, thank you for the donation, Natalie. That was awesome. I was teasing about it. Well, not really, because YouTube really is screwing us, but I appreciate the donation. I really do. It's D, the son. Hey, man, how you doing? Candy Apple's back in the house. Glad you're with us as well. Captain Caveman. Hey, man, glad you're there. I'm here. We're all awesome. Marcella Bowens is in the house as well. Oh, I know. There's so many new names and faces we're growing every week, and it's so cool. That's why we do it. I mean, we do it as a community of people to just try and keep it real, keep it together. Timothy McCune, if I haven't said your name yet, I just did. Glad you're here as well. And that's getting close to the top. I know, because I saw my own name up there when I was chatting earlier. So that must mean I'm getting to the very top of this mess. So if you haven't said hello in the chat box, I don't know you're here, and I can't say hi back. Shane Barber, you're the name that got cut off last. So I'm glad I got to you. Let's check the bottom of the list, make sure we didn't miss anybody, because this is taking a long time, but I think that's it. I do. Sam Squanch Rivera, he's checking back in with us as well. All right. I know Cole Williams is out there listening somewhere. He's on set working, doing something. Christy Skyambra. I think I got that right that time. I used to be a cunning linguist, but, you know, it's been difficult the last 3 years of dyslexia. Let's see. All right, I think that does wrap it up for everybody who's hanging out tonight. Thanks, everybody, seriously, for being here live. It was what makes it me not talking to myself. I'm actually have a room full of people to actually sit here and talk to. So that makes me not feel like I'm talking to myself, and I very much appreciate that. There is Hunt, Fish, Play, Hawaii to you, my Hawaiian brother. So glad you could make it as well. See? I know how that works. All right. We're talking Canadian Bigfoot once again. That's right. Not Canadian bacon, because that's ham. I don't even know why they call that bacon, because they lie. I ordered Canadian bacon on a pizza once, and they delivered it with a ham, and I sent it back. I'm like, I didn't order ham. They're like, you did order ham. I'm like, no, I ordered bacon. They're like, no, you ordered Canadian bacon. I'm like, I'm not in Canada. I ordered American bacon in America. They're like, we don't have American bacon. All we have is this. That's not bacon. All right. There are some very, very British Columbias where we're talking about specifically in Canada this week. And there are some very, very famous accounts that happen out of British Columbia, Canada. The very first one that comes up really in 1924, and it's a huge long tale of Albert. That's right. And there is a Bigfoot campfire story out there. But I'm going to give you the gist of this one, because we're really not going to read a 15-minute story at the beginning of this and give you a Bigfoot campfire story at the end, because my voice just isn't going to support it tonight. But Albert Osman basically was abducted by a Sasquatch and lived with them for 3 days. And that's the name of the Bigfoot campfire story. This is the one where, you know, he's trying to figure out why he's there. Did they want him to breed with the young girl? You know, he ends up giving him a whole box of snuff, and it makes him run away, and that's how he escapes. But, you know, the story of him being picked up in his sleeping bag and carried up over the shoulder of this big Sasquatch, he must have been a tiny guy. It's kind of all I could really say about it. But that one's a really cool story. The next one up is the story of 1955 fall account of the William Rowe account. Now, this one's a little less known than the Albert Osman story, but any real Bigfoot enthusiast probably knows the story. And he goes on to tell the story that ever since I was a small boy back in the forest of Michigan, I've studied the lives and habits of wild animals. Later, I supported my family in northern Alberta by hunting and trapping. I spent many hours just observing the wild things. They fascinated me. But the most incredible experience I ever had with an animal creature occurred near a little town called Tetwankash in British Columbia, about 80 miles west of Jasper. It had come to the edge of the brush that I was hiding in, 80 feet of me, and squatted down on its haunches, reaching out its hands, and it pulled the branches of the bushes towards it and stripped the leaves with its teeth. Its lips curled flexibly around the leaves as it ate. I was close enough to see that its teeth were white and even. The shape of this creature's head somewhat resembled a Negro's. The head was higher at the back than at the front. The nose was broad and flat. The lips and chin protruded further than that's nose. But the hair that covered it, leaving bare only the parts of the face around the mouth, nose, and ears. Animal as much as a human. None of its hair, even the back of its head, was longer than an inch. And that on its face was much shorter. Its ears were shaped like human ears, but its eyes were small and black like a bear's, and its neck was unhuman, thicker and shorter than any man's I had ever seen. As I watched this creature, I wondered if some movie company was making a film at this place, that what I saw was an actor made up look partly human and partly animal. But as I observed it more, I decided it would be impossible to fake such a specimen. Anyway, I learned later that there was no such company in that area, nor, in fact, did anyone live in the Mica Mountain, according to the people who lived in that area. Finally, the wild thing must have gotten my scent, for it looked directly at me through an opening in the bush. A look of amazement crossed its face. It looked so comical at the moment, I had to grin. Still in a crouched position, it backed up 3 or 4 steps, then straightened up to its full height and started to walk rapidly back the way it had come. For a moment, it watched me over its shoulder as it went, not exactly afraid, but as though it wanted no contact with anything strange. Now, the story of the Albert Osman story is a fantastical tale of a 3-day adventure of staying with these large hairy people who lived in a culture and had a dwelling and had a conversation with each other, versus this very detailed and up close experience of somebody who is a naturalist, because that's basically, by his own admission, exactly what he says that he is. I think I'm more entailed to believe than I am to follow along the Albert Osman story. Anyhow, we're going to move right along here, all the way up to 1965. Now, this is still pre-Patterson. Multi-witness road crossing outside of Fort St. John along Highway 97. My family was moving from mile 101 on the Alaska Highway to Fort St. John. It was around 6:30 p.m. when we were headed up around a curve in the highway, and a large figure crossed in front of my father's pickup truck. My older brother and I were in the back of the camper, looking through the window at the road when we saw it. My father and mother and younger brother were in the front seat, and they also saw it. When we stopped at the next mile marker for a break, we asked our dad what it was, and he said in a nervous laugh that it was a big, drunken, hairy Indian. We never spoke of it, for yet it would come up several times over the years. We would always laugh it off, and when we were younger, my brother and I would refer to it as a werewolf. As about 3 days after the full moon, That's just good. Oh, we saw a werewolf. No, you saw Sam Squanch. Nope, you saw a big drunken Indian. For being a racist, Dad. Drunken Indian. Get it? All right. Moving right along here to the springtime of 1966. Spiel Machine, British Columbia. A bear hunter sees Bigfoot boning. What? That's right. This guy says he has a a Bachelor of Science in Geology degree from New Mexico Institute of Mining and Technology in 1961. 1965, he was a plant manager for a remote plant owned by NL Industries Incorporated, located about 7 miles northwest of Spill Machine, British Columbia, on public land. The plant is on the west face of the Spill Machine Mountain, and since I was a young man at the time, and having only worked for the firm for a little more than a year, I was reluctant to make my finding public. Now that I'm retired, I don't really care. On an early May 1965 morning, I drove up the road from the mill to the site on a grizzly hunt. Half a mile above the mill site, there is a small clearing of about an acre on the east bank of the river. Just north of this clearing, the road makes a big dogleg left, and there's a road cut on the right side of it. Well, where the freak is the story of where he saw him boning? It's not here. You suck. The first occasion, a line of footprints came in the direction of the Columbia River Bridge. The second time I came to the clearing north of the footprint, I came upon the creatures I thought were grizzlies, but they were upright and were scuffling. Two began mating in the normal human fashion instead of from the rear. I was about 100 yards from them and took a shot at one of them with my rifle, but missed. And then the three ran into the woods to the east. Were there fairies in 65? I'm starting to wonder about that one. Wow, it was like all of a sudden he had to make up where they were mating. Hey, they can't all be winners. Finally, we're going to wrap this one up. I'm glad I didn't use that one for the last one, because that would have just sucked a whole bunch of nightmare sighting while traveling on the mountainside near Rossland. We left Rossland on Highway 38, heading southwest, connecting to Highway 22. My brother, his girlfriend, myself, and a friend of mine, we left in the early evening. Our idea being to go watch for UFOs off the top of the mountain summits. It was what we called the Summits Road, Old Roslyn Cascade Highway, a dirt road with many hairpin turns, twisting up along the side of two mountains of the summit. My sighting of a Bigfoot was quick, but enough for me to know exactly what I was looking at. I saw all of them initially. It was gray colored. Then mostly I saw his back and leg hair. It seemed coarse and thick. He also seemed more slender than I would have thought. He was tall, though, very tall. I'm not good at guessing heights, but if the bank wasn't any indication, he was at least 7 feet tall. He was bent over at the creek, and I assumed he'd been drinking water. He stood, turned, took one long stride towards the hillside. Then he stepped up a dirt bank and was gone up into the trees and shadows within moments. All this took place within the glow of the car and the headlights. For a moment, I couldn't take it all in. And then heard my friend also in the back seat sobbing beside me. All I said to her was, "Did you just see what I saw?" And all I heard was her shaky voice whispering, "Yes." Very frightened. I think I recall her saying, "What was that?" My brother and his girlfriend in the front seat, brother driving, never saw the Bigfoot because he was readying for the hairpin corner and was looking in that direction and not straight ahead where the lights were shown in that moment. The next day, we went back to look for any kind of sign being there, but being fall, frost had hardened the ground. We were stunned when we saw how high the bank was and how he easily stepped up onto it, maybe 5 feet. The bank was sloped steeply, dirt with some rocks and grass and trees, but we found no footprints. Though it was quick, I never forgot what I saw. I can still see it in my mind's eye. My mind's eye. Yeah, I got a mind's eye for you. All right, folks. I kind of dig. It's a storyteller telling a story, but it definitely sounds like some fun. Hey, Dean Cooper, man, I hope you're feeling good out there. Jevin Moore will be back with some more camping tips for stupids in the near future. I am sure of it. And for this edition of the Squatchers Lounge podcast, I want to say thank you for being here. We'll see you next week, same time, same Squatchy channel. And may the Squatch enjoy another Bigfoot campfire story. What the hell is that? I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that was a Bigfoot. Let me tell you a story. Welcome to another Bigfoot campfire stories. Many things happen on logging roads, both in the U.S. and Canada. More times things happen that no one ever hears about, as it may just destroy that entire industry. A driver of a logging truck named Curtis happened to hit something while transporting logs back to the mill. This is that story. Well, I'll start out by saying I've driven truck one way or another most of my adult life. I got my CDL at the age of 22 and started long-haul driving as that was my passion. After 20 years of being on the road, I decided I wanted a little less travel in my life, and I took a job as a logging truck driver as it put me home nearly every night. We've been running logs from Copper Mountain for about 2 months now, and the loads were always full and heavy. We got a bonus each month if we managed not to have an accident or loss of any loads, so we really worked hard to hustle, yet be safe. After months of driving the same dirt roads over and over, they become so normal that the danger tends to melt away after just a short time. It has been pushing us harder and harder. We've gotten behind after a few loads behind the rains. The roads got shitty and the drivers put their foots down and they just did the best that they could. Well, on this particular day, we were running loads clear up until dark as it just had to get done, and I was on my final pickup load of the day. Charlie, one of the other drivers, was waiting right behind me, and they were loading us both to get out for the day. They finished my load up first, and Charlie had just a few minutes behind me, so I went ahead and started down the mountain. Well, it was getting dark and started hard to see the roads, but I knew Charlie wouldn't slow down, any being the last load of the day, so I pushed the speed a little more than I should have. Sure enough, as I changed gears, I felt a large impact with the front of the truck. So it knocked the whole truck kind of sideways and jacked the trailer hookups all wonky. Well, I threw on the flashers and I got out of the truck. I figured it had to have been a boulder that rolled down in place after our last trip up the mountain or something. I walked around the back of the truck and set out a couple of flares and then went up to see what I hit. Well, as I walked up on the passenger side of the truck, I could see an animal laying out in front of the truck about 20 yards. I must have hit a bear, although the hair was longer and not quite a black or brown coloring. It wasn't moving and there was a lot of blood around the top of the body. It must be dead for sure. Well, I heard Charlie coming down the hill, so I jumped in the truck and got on the radio to tell him to slow down and stop behind me. Good thing as it did, because he almost had to lock up the brakes to stop in time. He got out of the truck, and we both approached this dead animal together, but when we got up to it, the odd smell and shape of the creature, we realized this was no bear. This thing had to be 7 or 8 feet tall, long covered in that strangely long auburn hair, had the face of a man save for the weird low jaw and the ridges above the eyes, a domed head, and very long arms and fingers. Charlie looked over at me and said, "Do you know what this is?" I said to him, "It's a Sasquatch like they talk about on those TV shows." He replied, "But this is a whole lot of trouble." Charlie walked back to his truck and radioed up to the hill where Tim the foreman was located, and he joined us down at the site. Well, Tim started in with the, how much do you like your job, boys? To which we replied, of course, a whole lot. Well, Tim told us both that this isn't the first time that their trucks have hit one of these things, and it just turns into trouble. Logging gets shut down, we lose millions, and the boss isn't having it anymore. We got to dispose of this thing, and fast. Well, Tim and Charlie rolled the thing out of the way as I got a pry bar to get the fender off of my tire so the truck could be drivable. Well, no fluids were leaking, so it should run and get this load back to town. Fire up the truck and get it back to the mill. Don't ever ask any questions to anyone about this ever again. I asked how to explain the damage to the truck, to which he said it'll be fixed by morning. Don't worry about it. Charlie got back in his truck, fired it up, and hit the air horn. And as I got back in the truck, I noticed Tim grabbing a jerry can from his truck. And as I started up and drove, I saw him light the animal on fire right where the carcass was. So Charlie and I dropped the trucks back at the mill after unloading, and he and I didn't say much to each other. Charlie said one fella never got the message not to talk about this type of thing, and now he can't find a logging job anywhere. This isn't what I need in my life, that's for sure. Well, in the morning, I got back to the lot the next day, and I was assigned a nice newer truck, much nicer than I had before. Well, we drove on past where I thought we would have seen the burn marks in the ground where they burnt that Bigfoot in place, but strangely, there was a newly plowed road in that area, making it much wider and safer. I will admit, though, that was the only time I ever saw one in my entire career with the logging company. Well, this driver's silence was only broken long after he retired. I gathered the story in the early 2000s, and I'm sure many more have happened since then. Thanks for listening. I'm Reverend Jeff, and may the Squatch be with you.